I'm Chris Gibbons. I'm with the National Center for Economic Gardening. I originally brought the Colorado Companies to Watch program to Colorado. It goes clear back to 2004. I had been running a program in Littleton. I was working for Littleton at the time, and it was an economic gardening program where we were working with entrepreneurs. And I got this email out of the blue from the Edward Lowe Foundation, which was up in Michigan, and they said, "We're interested in what you're doing. Would you like to come up and explain?" So I flew up there, spent a couple days with them. One of the things that came out of this is I got exposed to the other programs they were running, and one of those was a Companies to Watch program that they had started in Michigan and were running in several other states at the time. And I came back thinking, wow, that would be pretty cool to be doing that in Littleton. When I got back here, it became clear to me that we probably weren't big enough to do it as a city. And so I put out a email notice to some people that were involved in an organization called the Front Range Economic Gardening Group, and asked them, would you be interested in coming to hear about this program? So I only got a few people that took us up, Frank Gray, Hazel Hartberger, Stephanie Steffens, and one of the staff people at the time, Christine Hamilton Pennell, and myself were the 5 people that met out in the courtyard in Littleton and said, what would you think about doing this program in Colorado? We didn't have the resources to do that, and Stephanie was coming from the state, and so she made a commitment that she would go back and ask, would the state be willing to participate in this? So that was the starting point. I think this awards program is important for Colorado for a couple of reasons. I've never been a big fan of awards programs, to be real candid with you. The appreciation dinners and those things, because it was always my perception is it didn't have anything to do with creating jobs. You hold these dinners and people go home, no jobs came out of that. But one of the things that became clear to me is that if you run it at the state level, it changes the conversation. And we said this right from the start. If people will participate in this and we get a turnout for this, it changes the conversation about economic development within the state. It doesn't mean it's going to replace all the other economic development programs, the recruiting programs, the small business assistance programs, or those kind of things. But what it does do is bring that focus on those stage 2 emerging growth companies, the companies to watch, if you will, and it says, these people usually are invisible. You never see them very often. You don't know they're out there creating all of these new products and new interesting things all across the state. And then all of a sudden you put them in one room and there's 50 of them sitting up there in the front. It's like, oh my gosh, there's something else going on in the state. So it was that changing of the conversation that was, I think, is what's important about it. Well, I think a partnership between business and government is the best way to work to start with. Neither side could do it alone. We're a big believer that economic developers don't create jobs, entrepreneurs create jobs. No matter how you put it together, they're still the people. But they need the infrastructure that government brings to be able to do that. And in Littleton, we always talked about, we were really good at 3 things. We were good at infrastructure, not only streets and water and sewer, but intellectual infrastructure, courses and training and all of those kind of things. We were good at connections. We knew a lot of people, and so we could put people together that may not necessarily know each other. And we were good at information. So all of that stuff is a role for government to play. What we've always said in Littleton is that we're not here to replace the private sector, we're here to try to make it work better. And in this particular case, I think by bringing the spotlight on those private sector companies from a public sector standpoint, it works for both of them. Some of the inspiring things that I remember of the programs that I went to is seeing all of those people up there on the stage at the last moment. So now you have all 50 of the recipients up there, and they are people from all over the state. They are from the San Luis Valley, they're from the West Slope, they're from the Plains, they're from the Front Range, they're up from the Northwest. and they're doing all of these really interesting things, and it just dawns on you how much entrepreneurial energy there is in the state. But you never get that feel until you just get them all on that same stage and they're all holding those awards up there. And I never fail to just have a shiver down my back when I walk out of that program when all 50 of them are up there on the stage. I think I would wish for the future of the program that, first of all, to continue to be successful. It's grown from, I can't remember what we had, maybe a couple hundred, 250 that first round. I think we're over 800, almost 900 people come to it now. People that not only are from the company, but from the communities that come to it. So I would like to see that continue. We'd certainly like to see the political elected leaders come to those programs, the state legislators, the mayors around the state, to see what it's about when you see all those entrepreneurs up there. So hopefully this program will be running 10, 15 years from now. Yeah, there was a really key moment when we were putting this early together. And that very first year, we didn't know if we were going to have the budget. We were trying to push an idea that nobody had heard about, and we didn't have people bought into it. And there were some key people, Frank Gray, Hazel Hartberger, but in particular, Stephanie Steffens kept that program alive in the absolute critical moment when we had to have money, we had to get work done, and those first 2 or 3 or 4 years, she was the staff person that made this thing succeed. There's a lot of people involved in it, and all those people deserve credit, but if I had to name a linchpin person, it was Stephanie Steffens.